In January 1991, at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, the world watched as gaming history changed in real time. Nintendo and Sony stood proudly on stage, announcing what promised to be the biggest revolution gaming had seen yet: the Super Nintendo CD-ROM, a cutting-edge collaboration that would blend Nintendo's gaming genius with Sony's technological progress. It was supposed to be the future. Two giants, side by side, reshaping the landscape of entertainment forever. But in business, promises can vanish faster than applause fades away. The very next day, the crowd returned, expecting updates, progress, and excitement. Instead, they witnessed a moment that would go down in corporate history as one of the most notorious betrayals ever. Howard Lincoln, Nintendo's senior executive, took the stage alone. Calmly and with a confident smile, he announced Nintendo's brand new partnership, not with Sony, but with Philips, a direct competitor. No prior notice, no warnings, no private discussions. Just a cold, calculated move designed to humiliate Sony publicly, asserting dominance over a partnership they no longer desired. As Lincoln's words echoed through the shocked room, Sony executives froze. Faces that moments before had glowed with pride now revealed shock, anger, embarrassment. It wasn't just business, it felt deeply personal. But amidst the silent chaos sat a man whose face would soon become synonymous with Sony's response to Betrayal: Ken Kutaragi. At that moment, Kutaragi wasn't yet the legend he'd later become. He was merely a gifted engineer, a visionary quietly pushing boundaries within Sony's rigid corporate structure. As Nintendo's decision thundered across the stage, Kutaragi felt his dreams fracture. His idea for Sony's entry into gaming had just been publicly shattered. Most thought the humiliation spelled the end of their brief journey into video games. Yet within Kutaragi, anger ignited something else, a fierce determination. While others saw failure, Kutaragi saw freedom. Nintendo had severed the leash, inadvertently freeing Sony from their shadow. In business and life, there are moments when betrayal isn't merely an end, but rather a beginning. Kutaragi didn't see defeat, he saw opportunity. That day in Vegas, something shifted profoundly. Nintendo may have publicly rejected Sony, but what they truly did was set in motion the rise of their greatest rival. A rival born from rejection, fueled by humiliation, driven by quiet but relentless innovation. Because in the end, Nintendo didn't just betray Sony, they accidentally unleashed them. Before the world knew the PlayStation, and long before his ideas transformed gaming forever, Ken Kutaragi was an invisible man within Sony, a rebel hidden in plain sight. In the late 1980s, Sony's leadership was conservative, corporate, and deeply hierarchical. They thrived on established technologies: TVs, radios, and cassette players. Gaming consoles were considered trivial, mere toys unworthy of a serious electronics giant. But Kutaragi saw what others couldn't. As an engineer, he wasn't bound by tradition, he was driven by innovation. Quietly, often after hours, away from skeptical eyes, Kutaragi poured his evenings into creating something remarkable: a revolutionary sound chip for Nintendo's upcoming console, the Super Nintendo. He worked secretly, knowing full well the risk he was taking. The project wasn't officially approved. Sony executives were furious when they discovered his hidden project. Meetings were called urgently. Some managers demanded his immediate firing. Yet amidst this storm of criticism, one voice rose quietly but powerfully in Kutaragi's defense: Norio Oga, Sony's visionary president. Oga saw past the secrecy. He saw innovation, risk-taking, passion. Oga intervened, boldly defending Kutaragi and his secret chip. Instead of dismissal, he officially greenlit the chip's integration into Nintendo's console. This pivotal moment not only saved Kutaragi's career, it ignited something much bigger. Kutaragi's secret chip was more than just innovative technology. It was a symbol of rebellion against mediocrity. This wasn't just a chip, it was the seed of a revolution. And sometimes changing the world doesn't start with permission. It starts quietly, unseen, with a single act of bold defiance. When Nintendo publicly turned their back on Sony, it seemed like the ultimate corporate humiliation. Yet, often in business and in life, the biggest setbacks become our most powerful moments of transformation. Nintendo's no would soon be recognized as the single greatest catalyst Sony ever experienced. Sony's executives had grown frustrated. They felt constrained, always bending to Nintendo's rigid demands. Privately, Sony began to realize something critical. Nintendo's rejection wasn't a punishment, it was liberation. In saying no, Nintendo inadvertently removed Sony's greatest constraint, dependency. What seemed a devastating rejection transformed into an opportunity for reinvention. Within weeks, the tone at Sony shifted. Meetings no longer centered around regret or blame, but around possibilities, innovation, strategy. At the heart of this shift was Ken Kutaragi. Nintendo had said no, perfect. Now Sony could finally say yes to its own future. Kutaragi pushed boldly, passionately advocating for Sony to create its own gaming console. Freed from Nintendo's restrictive demands, Sony executives started listening, really listening, to Kutaragi's vision. The public humiliation at CES ceased being a painful memory. It became Sony's strongest rallying cry. Nintendo's no didn't weaken Sony, it unleashed them. Soon, the project that would become PlayStation was officially born. As it turned out, Nintendo's rejection was Sony's redemption. They didn't just want to join the gaming world anymore. They wanted to redefine it. Their boldest strike came in 1995. Sega, a titan of gaming, was poised to dominate with their highly anticipated console, the Sega Saturn. They had brand recognition, loyal fans, and powerful hardware. But Sony had something Sega didn't expect, a bold strategy and absolute clarity. At E3, Sega confidently announced the Saturn at $399. Then came Sony's turn. Steve Race, Sony's executive, stepped confidently onto the stage, approached the microphone, and with calm precision spoke just 3 digits, $299. The room fell silent, then exploded in applause. With a single word, Sony had delivered a knockout punch. Suddenly, Sega's confidence turned to panic. PlayStation hit store shelves aggressively, backed by savvy marketing and a simple promise: powerful gaming made affordable. But Sony's victory wasn't only about price. They made another genius move, giving developers freedom. Games like Tekken, Ridge Racer, and Wipeout became overnight sensations. Sony had built not just a console, but a culture, vibrant, inclusive, dynamic. Sega had underestimated Sony's willingness to innovate and listen deeply to gamers. In the end, PlayStation didn't win because it was cheaper. It won because Sony understood something profound. Great innovation isn't about the product alone. It's about connecting deeply with people. Final Fantasy, a game with captivating stories, deep characters, and revolutionary gameplay, turned into a global phenomenon. Nintendo clung stubbornly to cartridges, ignoring clear industry trends towards CDs. Squaresoft saw the future and wanted to embrace it, but Nintendo refused to adapt. Sony recognized their moment. Executives from Sony and Squaresoft met discreetly, sharing a vision to create not just a game, but an experience. That vision became Final Fantasy VII. When Squaresoft announced FF7 would be PlayStation exclusive, the gaming world was stunned. In January 1997, FF7 hit shelves and gaming would never be the same. It was visually stunning, emotionally profound, and technically revolutionary. Sales exploded. Final Fantasy VII established PlayStation as the console of choice for gamers seeking depth, storytelling, and immersion. Nintendo missed the signs. Sony embraced the future. And in doing so, they gained more than a franchise, they gained a generation. Until then, gaming was seen as childish. But Sony saw something different: adults, creatives, rebels, people proud to play. They weren't just selling games, they were crafting a new culture. From the moment PlayStation was conceived, Sony made a bold strategic decision. They refused to market their console as a toy. Instead, PlayStation became a lifestyle choice. In a groundbreaking series of ads, Sony portrayed young adults in urban apartments, immersed in gaming. The iconic Double Life commercial showed real people proudly embracing gaming as part of their identity. Gaming wasn't something to hide anymore, it was something to celebrate. Sony recognized a truth: adults want entertainment that validates their maturity and creativity. PlayStation's strategic clarity didn't just capture the adult market, it created it. In the end, PlayStation didn't just win market share, it changed the rules. They proved that innovation is about understanding people deeply. PlayStation offered a new way to define yourself. And that distinction made all the difference. It all began with that public rejection in Las Vegas. What looked like humiliation was actually the spark. Sony didn't crumble, they rebuilt. And in doing so, they changed everything. Nintendo's dismissal had unleashed a competitor far more formidable than they'd imagined. By the mid-90s, PlayStation had left Nintendo and Sega struggling to keep up. Sony captured not just market share, but the hearts and minds of gamers. It was a cultural phenomenon unlike anything gaming had ever seen. Executives studied PlayStation's rise, but the answer was simple: perspective. They embraced rejection not as defeat, but as redirection. The humiliation of CES had sharpened their vision. PlayStation dominated. Ken Kutaragi stood vindicated. Sony's triumph taught the world a profound lesson. Greatness often begins as rejection, and silence, when embraced strategically, becomes the loudest statement of all. Because the story of PlayStation was never just about video games. It was about how you rise when the world says no. How you turn setbacks into strategy, rejection into resilience, doubt into determination, and struggle into unstoppable momentum. Ken Kutaragi was once invisible, but he refused to stay invisible. He saw clearly, sometimes your greatest opportunity is hidden behind the loudest no. What happened next wasn't luck, it was clarity, courage, execution. PlayStation didn't rise to prove something to Nintendo, it rose to prove something to itself. Now this story belongs to you. Each of us faces our own version of rejection. But rejection is not the end, it's a beginning. What rejection could become your greatest victory? What idea are you holding back? PlayStation reminds us, great legacies aren't built on safe bets, they're built on bold choices. Your journey may start quietly, but it's yours to write. Because just like PlayStation, your greatest success lies beyond your toughest obstacle. And every great legacy, yours included, begins with one story.